Welcome to UpWell The Podcast. I'm Sarah, and this is my beautiful co-host, Katie. As fellow female entrepreneurs turned friends and now business partners, we are so happy you're here.
With every episode, it is our sole purpose to share authentic conversations to inspire your personal level up. Take our curiosity, add your best intentions, and flow with us in the UpWell.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of UpWell The Podcast. I'm Sarah, this is Katie, and we're so happy you're here.
Yeah, welcomes.
This is Katie's birthday episode, y'all. It is Pisces season. Not yet. We're recording this pre-Pisces season, but
this will air during Pisces season, so
it is the best season.
Yes.
It's Katie's season.
It's my season.
So it's gonna be super fun because today I'm just gonna be chatting with Katie. She's gonna share some tidbits, just through her life, what she's learned, a few lessons, and a few things that you could take away. We're gonna talk about aging gracefully and all sorts of fun things. So hopefully you can get to know Katie a little bit better, and hopefully you can navigate the seasons of your life a little easier after we chit chat.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, first I want to know how you're feeling. She is 40 and fine, y'all. She doesn't look 40. I know. Well, you would never guess.
I'll be turning 40 March 7th, so Tuesday coming up. For when this airs, it'll be Tuesday coming up, so 40.
Woo woo. How are you feeling about that?
I feel good. I feel really good about this. I'm excited to journey into this next decade. I'm probably the most excited about this one than most other birthdays I've had, to be honest with you. Like I'm really comfortable in who I am now. So I feel like this is a good new chapter, a good new,
That's awesome. Well, let's talk about the lead up to that, because I want to know, for anybody out there that feels like aging is terrible. That's me. I don't think it's terrible. Let me rephrase that. It's challenging. It's difficult to feel like your life is flashing before your eyes sometimes, right? Like you wake up and you're another day older, there's another day gone. So I just want to know, since you're turning 40, you've obviously gone through a couple decades. I want to know the decade breakdown for you. I want you to tell me how you've evolved, how your life has transpired through your 20s, through your 30s, because I do feel like, especially as a female, those are the hardest years to navigate. Like there's so much change happening in your life during those times of your 20s and your 30s. So I just want to know, your personal evolution, and maybe give our listeners and our viewers a couple things that they could use if they're going through those times, or if they've already passed them, some things that they can relate to.
So decade breakdown. Okay, so I know you said 20s and 30s. I actually want to start with my teens, because my teens were a pivotal point. My teens, I was a bitch. I was a stark, raving mad bitch in my teens. So if you went to high school with me and I was a bitch to you,
she's sorry.
I'm sorry. It's not who I am anymore. Really, it's not. I've done a lot of growing. Teens were, for me, my teenage years was a lot of chasing.
Yeah.
Chasing validation. From to me now, looking back, from an imaginary group of people that I was constantly chasing, trying to find validation outside of myself. And it wasn't until my 30s that I realized that. But my teens were definitely a challenging decade for me. It was hard on my parents. I was a handful. It was hard, just people I interacted with. And it's funny because I have run into a few people that will talk about me from high school, and they're like, "Oh my God, you were so sweet." And I'm like, "Oh
Who
man,
did you know?
If you thought that was sweet, man, I wish you knew me now, because like I was a bitch in high school." Yeah, so teens were rough for me. Again, I like to call myself a pretend extrovert at that time. I was doing my best to put on this persona of what I thought people wanted to see from me. I had put this unrealistic expectation on myself and where I got that, I don't know. I think just societal norms at the time.
Yeah, I think teenage years are just that time where you just want to fit in, right? You just want to be a part of something.
Absolutely.
A part of a friend group, whether that's, being popular or standing out or fitting in, kind of both simultaneously. So I love that.
Yeah, and I was a cheerleader in high school, and I was real petite, tiny little thing in high school, and I still always felt like I was lacking in some way, shape, or form. Whether I wasn't a part of the popular crowd. I knew them all. And I think looking back, I was somewhat friendly with a lot of them, but I wasn't a part of their group. I wasn't invited to the parties. I wasn't invited to the gatherings. And I think at the time, that was always something that I struggled with. And now I'm just kind of like, whatever. It is what it is. My life and everything that's happened has led me to where I am now. So
yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So those teenage years, I feel like, are very similar for a lot of us. I think a lot of us have the same experience where, you're just trying to fit in. You just want to feel good in society.
Right.
Like you want to fit in. You want to be part of the group. So talk to me about your 20s. What happened in the next decade of your life?
So my 20s were a shit show.
Cheers to that.
My 20s were a shit show. So my 20s, I call that my anxiety decade. There's an Instagram page called 90s Anxiety, and that is, I should call it like early 2000s anxiety. But that was my anxiety
Story of your life.
Decade of that one. Again, you turn 18 and you're just thrust out into the world and expected to like just figure it out. And I had no freaking clue what I wanted to do. I changed my major. I can't even tell you how many times in college. Ended up getting a degree. It took me 6 years to get that degree. I took a very winding path to get there. But in terms of figuring out the type of people that I wanted in my life, I jumped from a lot of different groups of people. Again, still putting on this persona of being very extroverted and needing to be the center of attention, but not realizing that persona that I was pretending to be was ultimately the leading cause of my anxiety and the leading cause of that inner, like, the inner piece that I didn't have, that I was searching for, was because I was pretending to be this person that I think in a sense everybody expected me to be.
Yeah.
Because growing up, everybody's like, oh, she doesn't know a stranger. Well, that might have been true, but as I got older, I realized I was actually better being a little bit more observant, being a little bit more kind of, as, a step away from things. I don't want to say a step away, but kind of just, I was okay with not being the center of attention. I was okay with being behind the camera instead of in front of the camera. I wasn't, I felt... And it took some acceptance on my part to know that was okay, that there wasn't something wrong with me to do that. And that wasn't until the end of my 20s.
Well, I think that your 20s are, like, I call them my chameleon years, right? Like, there's a lot of inner turmoil because you're just trying to find your place. You're trying to find your place in the world. You're trying to find out who you really are, and just navigating that time. And you change a lot and you morph a lot and you try to fit in different, it's like a puzzle piece that you don't quite fit in that place. So I think it's such a turning point for a lot of people because they start to recognize those things and, the anxiety that it can cause because you don't have that true understanding or you aren't super solid in who you are yet.
Yeah. And so absolutely all of that. And it wasn't until the end of my 20s, the beginning of my 30s, when a lot of growth started to happen for me. And I attribute a lot of that to actually seeing a counselor. Yeah. I started seeing a counselor when I was 28, I think. I was 28 when I started seeing a counselor. And it took probably into the beginning of my 30s to really kind of, where that growth started to happen. And during that growth was when I started brainstorming what I really wanted out of life, brainstorming who I wanted in my life. And in that, I started removing people from my life to where the people I thought were going to be with me forever, I was just like, no, this isn't good for me anymore. This is, whether that was friendships, romantic relationships, just work people, jobs I was with, it was time to start making some changes in my 30s. And I did. And my 30s, I spent a lot of, like I said, almost the entire decade brainstorming. And I made some pretty big moves towards the end of my 30s. I started a business, my company, Enhanced Wellness, and I'm really super freaking proud of myself for starting that business right before the spring of 2020, plowing through and maintaining it, and
whole world shut down,
and still was able to come out on the other side of it stronger than I ever even, I think, fathomed at the time.
Yeah, I want to talk about some of the things that you learned, during those times in your 30s, but circling back to just your teens and your 20s, it's such an outside of yourself experience. And then I think that's the magic of your 30s, and I kind of experienced the same thing once I started stepping into those years of my life. It was so much more introspective. It's like I am really going inside and I'm learning more about myself and learning about who I want to be, and then making those adjustments, making those choices and changes in my life to reflect how I want to feel and where I want to go in the future. So I think that's super, super key to anybody's evolution, no matter what age you are. So tell me some of the growth or some of the things that you discovered in your 30s.
In my 30s, so that it didn't matter the quantity of close relationships I had, but more the quality of relationships. That was a big one for me. That my circle got very small during that time. And then in my 30s too, that I am not the result, I am the result of my experiences, but they don't define me 100% for who I am. Oh. Those experiences that I had in my teens and my 20s, I say I was a bitch and it was a shit show. Those experiences, I needed them to happen in order for me to get to where I was in my 30s and to find the growth in my 30s. And I really think that it was a lot of just learning to be vulnerable, learning to let go of shame that I was holding on to. Again, for whatever reason, I had these expectations and was seeking outside validation. And once I realized that the only person whose opinion matters about me is me, life became a whole lot easier and life became a whole lot more freeing. Yeah. And I don't think that, I'm glad it happened in my 30s because I needed the tough times of my teens and my 20s in order to truly embrace and experience and love my decade of the last 10 years in my 30s.
Yeah, I think that's so profound because everybody needs those experiences that lead up to those pivotal moments in their life, because those are the stepping stones. That's how you get from one point in your life to the next, whether that is personally, professionally, in your relationships. You need all those experiences. So as hard as they may be, or as misunderstood as they may be at the time, you might not understand why you're having to go through them, or why life is like this, or why this is happening to you. All those things we ask ourselves, in our younger years. But then you can look back from that bird's eye view and say, okay, wow, I had to experience all this to truly step into who I am now and who I'm becoming.
Absolutely. Who I'm becoming. And that, I think, is what I'm the most excited about leading into my 40s, is that my 40s, kind of my mantra for my 40s is let's fucking go.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
We've talked about how for a majority of our time, in terms of being business owners, we come up with these ideas and then we just think on it and we 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 don't necessarily execute on it. And now that I'm in a place where I'm just like, no, let's fucking go. We're executing this. We are rocking and rolling. We are plowing forward. And
40s is go time,
Is
y'all.
go time. Is go time. At least for this chick, it's go time.
I love that. So tell me, that is a perfect segue, because I want to know what you are looking forward to the most this year, turning 40, and in this 40s decade for you.
I think really just sharing what I've learned over the course of the last several decades. My personal growth journey, I really love sharing my story and seeing how it can help other people on their journey. And I feel like a lot of people have a tendency to get stuck in a certain point in life. And then they're just kind of like, well, this is just my life. This is just who I am. And knowing that, no, you're made for so much more than that. And just sharing that and empowering people to look at themselves and look at their story and the changes that they can make, and to help kind of facilitate that for a lot of people. Let me guide you. Here's my hand. I will help show you the way, but we can sit and I will stand right next to you while we wait and while you kind of figure it out if you're not ready to make further steps forward.
Yeah, and going back to everything that you just said, I think that is the true purpose of everything we experience in life, is to help others and empower others and support others. I mean, for no other reason, then that's human nature.
Right.
Like, we go through these things, we have trials and tribulations, and we have moments of growth and moments of celebration and all these amazing parts of our lives. And it is to me why we're here.
Right.
That's the purpose of life, is to experience all those things and then help others do the same.
Right. And with what I do for a living, I'm in a helping profession, and now that we've started this, this is another form and just another outlet for me to help people. I'm a helper by nature. And I think that is basically my biggest goal. I think if I had to speak for myself, for how I foresee myself even past my 40s, is just to keep helping people find their truest, most authentic self and live their best life.
That. I love that so much. And that is why I love my Katie. I love my Katie for that reason. Tell me something that you want to do that you've never done aside from starting a podcast. That's taken clearly. Yeah. But tell me something over the next couple of years, maybe, that you have always thought about doing or wanted to try, that you're like, here we go. Now's the time.
You know what? One of the funny things was I had written myself a note that I wanted to take 1 year and travel all the way, like completely circumnavigate the globe.
Ooh. And
there's different websites that you can go on, and I've mapped out a bunch of different, that you can do so many stops on a around the world ticket.
I love that.
That is, I had written myself a note that said, by the time I'm this age, if this, and this haven't happened in my life, which all of those things have happened in my life, that I would take a year and I would circumnavigate the globe. And I think now, even though the conditions that I had put on myself and those things, I've actually created them and made them happen, I still think that it is a feasible thing at some point in the next decade that I could probably do that. I don't know if I take a year, but even if I took a sabbatical of some sort, like for a little while, and just did a long haul trip.
Except you're gonna have to take me, so there's that. Here we go.
Let's go.
It's like one of those two ladies. Not the Golden Girls. Who am I thinking of?
I don't know.
Thelma and Louise.
That's
going to be us.
Except we're not going to be robbing and people.
We might.
Okay, well.
You didn't hear it here. You never know.
I know nothing.
You're saying your affirmation is let's fucking go. So
let's fucking go.
Might happen.
Yeah, might happen. So that's one of the big things. I do want to travel more. I was traveling a lot in my late 20s and into my 30s, and then that kind of died back a little bit, but then everything that happened within the world as well, I kind of I had to kind of stay put for a little while. And then I had some other goals, like personal goals that I wanted to achieve, and I've achieved them now. So kind of, I think, bringing myself back to that travel aspect and really seeing the world and
cool. Yeah. And I think it's something that you enjoy. And now looking back again, going back to that personal growth aspect of all of it, you do so much growth when you travel, like, especially when you're alone. I think there's something so powerful. We're going to definitely do an episode about that sometime, because I know both of us love the solo travel life. But I do have one more question for you. What is something that you maybe fear, not fear of the future, but that you've thought maybe was so far away, and now as you go through life, you're recognizing that it is now a little closer than it was before?
Ooh, that's a good question. You know, I'm probably not going to give you the answer you expect here. I think through so much personal growth and work that I've done, I've learned not to fear the future.
Love it.
And so I kind of take each day and embrace it and try to just live it and not, yes, I might plan for the future, but I lived my life in such a state of fear that I've learned to not fear too much of what is going on in the future. Like, I have my goals, and I've realized that, yeah, I might have a goal, and if I don't achieve that goal, there was a reason why I didn't achieve that goal, or if I deterred from that goal, there was a reason why I deterred from that goal. And really, I am on the path that I'm supposed to be on, and I just have to embrace that and accept it and know that I am doing my best and I'm living my best, and each day is just trying to improve myself a little bit more to live my best life.
I love that. And I think that is the beauty of aging, right? Is that element of awareness.
Right.
Like, you're so much more aware of yourself, of your habits, of your life, and even just your future. Like, you have a better view, you have a better understanding, and you're less fearful because you are living more in the present because you do have that awareness.
Absolutely.
So I think that's so important to embrace that beautiful side of aging. You know, you might not love the wrinkles and the gray hair and all the things that come along with it, but there is just so many magical things that happen as you go through life.
Right, and the wisdom that comes with it, you know,
Yeah.
is huge. And I actually just thought of something else that I would like to accomplish in my 40s.
Hear it.
Write a book.
I would read your book.
I want to write a book.
I love that. What would the premise of your book be?
Well, I have two different ideas for books, actually. One would be actually fiction, a fiction novel, like a total rom-com.
I could see that.
Yeah. I have a really good storyline for that. And then my other one would just be a memoir.
I love it.
Of life and growing, and my story of, you know, the hard work I've done to get to where I am today. And I feel that everybody's story is worth telling.
Yes.
And I would just like to share mine in a, you know, nice little.
Yeah, and the cool thing is you can self-publish books. I actually was just reading a book. That's so weird that you just said that. I just read this. I don't even remember what book I read like 3 to 4 books at a time. I know, I'm crazy. But they were saying everyone should write a book. Everyone should write a book about their lives because it just gives you that retrospect. Like, you can look back and just see everything that you have done, or even just take a deeper look at the things that you wanted to do or set out to do that you didn't accomplish, you know, and just see it from all angles. So I love that you would love to write a book,
would love to write a book.
That's terrifying to me. I think it would be very challenging for me, but I think everyone should sit down and really think about their lifespan.
It doesn't terrify me in the least to sit down and share it. And I think that one of the biggest things for me, and I've talked about this in past episodes, is that it has taken me a very, very, very long time to get to the point in my life where I don't fear what anybody thinks of me. And I think that usually is the biggest terrifying factor, is that you're unsure of how others will receive this. And I'm like, if I'm my truest, most authentic self, that's all I can give the world.
Yeah.
And take it or leave it. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I'm not for everybody. I know that, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And that is going to lead me to a little game that we're going to play. Katie didn't know about this, so this is a surprise to her. We're going to play a little game of yes and no, yes or no. So I'm going to ask you,
Okay.
I'm going to say 20 topics, 20 words, 20 things.
Okay.
And you're going to give me a yes or no. So split second decision,
This
yes
is
or no.
payback.
I know. If you watched episode 1, she made me do a little rapid fire, and it was hard. It was a little challenging, and I
Okay.
was unprepared. So now, for Katie's birthday, happy birthday to you. I'm going to make her do the same. All right,
Okay.
you ready? Here we go. Road trips,
Oh, yes.
Brussels sprouts,
Yes.
public pools,
No.
romance novels,
Yes.
karaoke.
Yes.
Oh, I would have guessed no. Blue ink pens. Some people love black ink.
Yes, actually, yes.
Roller coasters.
Yes.
The Dahmer Netflix series.
Yes.
Cats.
Yes.
Oh, clowns.
No.
Men's skinny jeans.
No, God, no. Fuck no.
Body waxing.
No.
Socks and sandals.
Yes.
Reincarnation.
Yes.
Kombucha.
I want to say yes and no. It depends on the flavor.
It
depends on the flavor.
I'm with you there. Books made into movies.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. As much as I want to say no to that. Plastic Tupperware.
No.
Therapy.
Yes.
Skydiving.
No.
Last one. Country music.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
I wouldn't have pegged her as a country music fan.
Actually, it's country music, southern rock, and classic rock, which most people are floored by that.
I could see classic rock. I could see that in you. Just
And when I say yes to country music, it's more southern rock. I don't like pop country.
yeah, and that's honestly a lot of it now.
I don't like pop country.
Yeah.
I want something that's got soul and something that's got, some.
I love '90s country. Like, give me some Shania Twain,
Thank
some
you.
Garth Brooks.
90s
Like,
country is the
yes, the Dixie Chicks. Even like, I guess that was probably early 2000s.
Yeah.
But I loved
Yeah.
like that style of country was
Alan
good.
Jackson, George Strait.
Yes,
Oh my
the
God.
songwriting was still good, and now I
Martina
feel like it's
McBride.
either really, really twangy or really, really poppy. Like, can we get just somewhere in between?
That's why I like the genre of country that I like to listen to is more of like a southern rock. So it's kind of got like
Like a bluesy feel almost?
it's got a little bit of a bluesy feel, but it's almost got, if you think of, just for lack of a better band to think of, like a Leonard Skinner feel to it.
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of got that southern undertone to it.
Do you like Chris Stapleton?
Love Chris Stapleton.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So anything Chris Stapleton, along that lines, Cody Jenks
Okay. Okay.
is my jam.
I know I don't look like it, but I really love hip hop.
2000s hip hop. I am freaking down with it.
Love 2000s hip hop. Well, now I know when we go karaoke, we'll be singing
Classic rock.
Destiny's Child and Leonard Skinner.
There we go. That works. That works. Yes.
All right, girl. I am so happy that we did this episode because I think it was a great view for people to look into your growth, your life, and just what you're looking forward to in the years to come. And I think that's empowering for people that are aging, whether they're younger than us, our age, or older than us. I think it's just such a beautiful journey that we have, through this life. So I think I'm very proud of you. I'm grateful to know you. And I just can't wait to see what this next decade holds for you.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what it brings for me. Each decade has gotten better.
Yeah.
Each decade has gotten better, and I am pumped for my 40s.
We're like a fine wine, baby.
Fine wine.
Fine wine.
Even though we don't drink.
I know. We are sober AF, but we age really well.
Yes, we age really well. Yes, absolutely.
That's always the goal.
Good skincare routine.
Yeah. That is true.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us on another episode of UpWell The Podcast. You can join the conversation, join along with us on our Instagram or Facebook page at UpWell The Podcast. And you can find me personally. I am at Sarah Behrens on Instagram, and Katie is at barefoot.katie. And we just invite you back every episode. Every week we'll be sharing amazing new topics.
New tidbits, yeah.